Thank you for attending today's presentation, What Interviews Miss: The Power of Social Media Screening. This session is brought to you by Decisive, a global provider of compliance-driven human capital and risk management solutions. Our services include enterprise-level background checks, drug testing, continuous monitoring, electronic I-9, and more. Please keep in mind that this presentation is intended for informational purposes only. Neither this presentation nor the material presented during the webinar should be construed as legal advice. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce our speakers, Jamie Frankos and Christina Wendt. Jamie and Christina, please take it away.
Hi, I'm Christina Wendt, and I'm VP of Product Management at Decisive, and I'm really happy to have with me today Jamie Frankos, our screening expert.
I'm looking forward to it, Christina. I'm looking forward to talking about all things social media screening, so I'm excited to be here. Today, we are going to be talking about social media screening as another background screening check in your workflow and why we consider it to be a must as far as your ongoing workflow. Alrighty, the expansion continues. Social media screening is showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, we're seeing on average about a 37% increase in the past 3 years with over 6 billion active users across all platforms. And that is a worldwide number, and we continue to see that grow over time. Where candidates spend most of their time. I always talk about this in detail as it pertains to my kids, just because I have 2 teenage boys who spend quite a few hours, I would say, on social media. But what we're seeing is daily social media usage continues to climb across all platforms. And where we think that's important is it's important for you to understand where your next hire is sharing their real thoughts. So Facebook still has taken the lead there with the most time, as well as platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, etc. On average, we're seeing that users are spending about 2 hours a day on social media screening. Again, Facebook still taking the realm there from a global standpoint. I would say that my kids have particularly spent quite a few hours a day on Instagram, and it's particularly on TikTok. So I think that it's safe to say that people are actively using social media screening in their daily workflow and their daily use. My kids probably go there for their news content, whether that's right or wrong, but that seems to be the reality. Channels searched. I know that there's going to be a poll going on, so I hope you guys go ahead and take part of that. But it's important for you to realize that the channels that we are looking at in your social media reports are the 7 major platforms, which include Facebook, Instagram, X, or if you still want to call it Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Reddit, and Pinterest, as well as a web and news search through Google. So why social media screening? There's lots of opinions around social media screening, but I think it's important to know when it comes to social media screening, we're not only looking at the text of the actual public post, we are looking at the images as well and can capture things like rude gestures and symbols, weapon detection, detecting offensive gestures, as well as images of different types of weapons. So I think it's important to note what these people are posting publicly is also being looked at from a text standpoint, but also a visual and image standpoint. Their post, your liability. It is becoming more and more of a known thing that employees' public posts become your company's public problem. Most people are taking a reactive approach to social media screening, and obviously we believe that you should be taking a proactive approach to avoid things like PR disasters and discrimination lawsuits, as well as social media exposure for your business in general. I think it's really important to note that in 2024, the summer of 2024, it did come, new legal liability came forth with the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that employers are directly responsible for employees' social media harassment, regardless of when it occurs. So lots of people have discussions around social media is my private accounts, but what I post publicly is obviously out there for everybody to see. The bottom line around all of this is your employee's weekend tweet could become your $1 million lawsuit. So again, trying to avoid that PR network and to save your employment, the brand of your company. What is social media screening? I get this question probably every single day. So what social media screening reveals that interviews can't is your authentic character, real values, culture alignment through comprehensive footprint analysis. But if you think about it, in today's world, everybody has a perfect resume and everybody's really mastered an interview. But what social media background checks reveal is something different than, say, a criminal background check or a drug background check. It's really going to speak to the character of the individual and do they culturally align with our organization.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Social media screening is now the fastest growing segment in background screening. And that's not surprising considering the regulatory pressure organizations face and the reputational risks involved. We're even hearing that directly from our customers that social media screening has become a valued part of their hiring process, giving them a more complete, well-rounded view of a candidate that they simply couldn't just get from a resume or an interview. And the sentiment is consistent across industries, whether it's a school, a financial institution, a tech company, the story is the same. Interviews tell you what candidates want you to know. Social media tells you the rest. The business case is clear. When you get a cultural fit, you reduce turnover and build more cohesive teams. Research consistently shows that bad hires are expensive. Estimates range from 1 to several times an employee's annual salary when you factor in recruiting, onboarding, lost productivity, and team disruption. When you hire people whose values align with yours, you hire higher productivity and stronger motivation. And when you screen proactively, you protect your brand from that kind of ethical misalignment that can potentially damage your company's reputation. Character matching isn't a nice to have, it's a measurable bottom line business outcome. How does it actually work in practice? Modern screening platforms use AI to publicly crawl available data across social channels, identifying behavioral flags and compile structured, readable report on a candidate's online persona. This isn't a manual Google search by a recruiter. That approach is inconsistent, legally risky, and not scalable. What we're talking about is a structured, audible, AI-powered process that delivers objective analysis at scale. Every candidate goes through the same process, every flag is documented the same way, and the hiring team receives a clean, consistent report. Let me walk you through some of the specific categories Decisive screens for. These include disparaging statements, drug and alcohol mentions and images, gory or violent imagery, nudity, political or government content, prejudice, profanity, rude gestures and symbols, self-harm references, sexual suggestive content, threats, and weapons imagery. We may also support custom keywords, so if your organization has specific concerns around that, please discuss with your Decisive solutions engineer to see if we can accommodate your request. The output is a comprehensive FCRA compliant report covering up to 7 years of social media history across Facebook, Instagram, X, Reddit, TikTok, and Pinterest. The report includes posts, analytics, flagged behaviors, top web and news articles associated with the individual, and a word cloud showing the topics they engaged with the most. One thing I want to highlight, Decisive screens in over 230 languages, and reports can be delivered in several different language options. If you're hiring globally or even a multilingual domestic markets, that helps your hiring process. A flag doesn't disappear just because it was written in another language. Who is using social media screening? The short answer, organizations across virtually every industry. We work with financial institutions, healthcare providers, transportation companies, entertainment companies, tech companies, K through 12 schools, universities, social media platforms themselves actually use us, public sector agencies, and nonprofits. What these organizations have in common is that their employees represent their brand, interact with the public and vulnerable populations, and operate in environments where one bad hire can have serious consequences. If that sounds like your organization, and for most of you it does, social media screening belongs in your process.
All right, we do have a few questions. So first one is for organizations that are just starting to think about social media screening. What's the first step they should take?
I actually should speak with any legal counsel you have as well, and your HR leadership to have that discussion about how you want to process this. We offer the report, and then you make decisions on hiring based on that report. So you'll want to set some company standards and probably look for some legal counsel on that as well.
I would say start thinking about a social media policy if you don't already have one in place. Make sure that you might, again, per Christina, seek some legal counsel on your side of the house to see what you want your social media policy to entail. but every organization should have that. And I think it's also well noted that with social media screening, you are asking for consent as well.
Here's another one. What is one common mistake organizations make when they review candidates' social media?
I'll go ahead and take that one. I think one common mistake that organizations make is really trying to look at, they want to make sure what you want to look at is really patterns, right? We're not necessarily trying to capture every single post. You want to start to see what patterns are and what those patterns look like and how that can be a misalignment with your organization. I think that social media screening, along with other background checks, can give you more of a complete picture of the actual applicant themselves. And so I think not doing a social media screening could be, I think doesn't give you the full picture. And so therefore, I think that you should obviously start to look at patterns within those social media posts. What are they doing? What are their activities look like? Remember too, it doesn't always have to be negative. It can be positive.
What is shown on a report? Any indication of political affiliation, sexual orientation, or age? Anything that could be disclosed protected information, i.e. EEOC?
We follow, from a compliance standpoint, we follow FCRA. We also follow EEOC. You also have the ability to do some customization within the reports if you want to take things further, redact images. If you wanted certain behavioral categories taken off the report, for example, political, that can be done as well. So there is customization available. Per Christina, speak to your CISIV representative who you work with, and we can certainly help with that. But we are definitely, from a compliance standpoint, following FCRA as well as EEOC, as well as other compliance standards across the world.
What would be considered disqualifiers from results that come back on the report?
What my standard answer to that would be, to be honest with you, is I think that again speaks to your social media policy. And I think that also speaks to what does your organization consider to be a disqualifier? What one organization considers to be a disqualifier versus another could be totally different. For example, you may not worry about cuss words. Some organizations may worry about cuss words. So I really would say, from a social media standpoint, what is your policy in terms of your organization and what you're looking for?
Do employers use this screening for certain positions or use for all their positions?
We have some clients that only use it for executive roles and others that use it for all their employees. So I think that would be a decision that you can make as an organization.
Absolutely.
What is the one common mistake organizations make when they review candidate social media?
We're not as involved in that. So we just provide the report and you're making your own decisions like we do for the rest of our background screening. We're providing that information and you're making decisions on what to do with that information. We're not part of that review process.
Again, I think I would go back to what I was just referring to as what is your organization's, in terms of the previous question was about disciplinary action. What is your organization's rule of thumb on all of that? So again, really speaking to that social media policy and to what kind of makes your organization tick or not, and what's your red flags versus your green flags. So per Christina's point, the data is being provided to you. What you decide to do with that data really depends on your own personal organization and how you guys dictate business.
Here's another one. Are there any types of online behaviors or risks that employers are often surprised to discover during social media screening?
I'm going to speak from my experience since I've seen so many social media reports. Nothing surprises me these days. But I think that the misconception is that you go into it thinking that someone's squeaky clean, and you start to see things that unravel what their character looks like. And so I think there's not one category I could speak to that says is very shocking. It's more of, I think you go into it with a perception of the person and you're either pleasantly surprised or not shocked at all. But I don't think you can pinpoint one exact category because, again, there's 13 behavioral classifiers and as well as personal keywords if you wanted to use those. And what would be shocking is different for everybody. But I think as a general rule of thumb, since I've seen so many, what's shocking is what people are willing to actually post online publicly and not think anything about it.
Thank you, Jamie. What are some standard language that you would recommend in a social media policy?
I think the standard language, again, I'm going to lean heavily back onto the organization in terms of what are your values, what is your mission statement, what is the overall goal of your organization. So a lot of that type of verbiage needs to be leaned on your personal organization. But I think if you have a standard of things that kind of you want to make sure you can check boxes or not, making sure you list those out. But I've seen social media policies very detailed that lay out, we allow this, we don't allow this. I've seen social media policies very vague that are very much just, we're going to be doing a social media background check, and maybe it's just one or two types of things that your organization isn't okay with.
Great, thanks. Is another one, is there any plan to analyze YouTube?
YouTube is coming this year, absolutely. So we will be doing full video analysis as well from YouTube, as well as other platforms, things like Reels and whatnot. But YouTube is coming, as well as 2 additional Chinese platforms will be available later on in the year as well.
Will the report flag any items or just display all information?
The report displays flagged posts, again, based on those behavioral classifiers and or keywords. If you use them, you do have the ability, your CISIV team members do have the ability to look at all posts if needed. But what is being actually shown on the report is publicly posted, public posts that have been flagged based on those behavioral classifiers. So if you have specific things, that's why I would encourage you to use keywords and work with your CISIV representative.
Next question, how do you ensure social media screening is FCRA compliant?
So for FCRA compliancy, obviously we're following all the guidelines there, but most importantly, what people need to remember with social media screening is FCRA follows the 7 years of post history. So we are only going back on, for example, Jamie Franco's Facebook page 7 years. So I'm not going to see what I posted 20 years ago. I don't even know if I had Facebook 20 years ago, but my point is we're only going to look at the past 7 years of public posts. So that's the biggest takeaway with an FCRA standpoint of social media screening is public post and post history of 7 years.
Do candidates need to provide consent before social media screening?
Yeah, that's part of the process when they give consent to do the entire background screen, and the social media screening is included in that. And the report you get back from the candidate will have the social media screen in there as well, and the candidate will see that as well if you have that turned on for your candidates to see their reports.
How do you avoid discrimination claims tied to protected class information?
I think this comes back to your consulting legal counsel and your policy as well.
What types of social media behavior should actually influence a hiring decision?
Again, we're providing the data. We're not going to, again, based on your organization, what is it you're looking for in terms of the actual candidates that you are doing screening on? So again, I would rely heavily on your organization's mission and what types of candidates you're looking for in terms of what you would consider to be potential posts that are troublesome to you or not.
Do applicants see reports also? If settings are private or if no account is found, are we explicitly told they're private/no accounts, or will the report just come back as clean?
So the report has a profile page, and within the profile page is listed out all of the social media handles that are found. If they do have a private account, we do bring that account into that profiles page. There's a lockbox next to that handle name indicating that they do have a private account. We think it's important for you to know they have a presence within that platform. We do not analyze those posts though. As far as our identity resolution process, we have a very conservative process, and we're not just going and searching for the first name that we find on Facebook and adding them. We have to have other property identifiers, usually between 2 and 3, to even consider adding a social media profile. But again, if it is a private account and we do find it, we do list it on the report. We just do not analyze those posts.
In the age of AI, how is it impacting social media?
So for our process, we are using AI to analyze those public posts so that those reports can get back to you in a timely, efficient manner. But we are also using human in the loop to do the identity resolution, as well as look at those reports when they come back to make sure there's not any false positives, or if there's any types of posts per your organization that need to be looked at a little bit differently. But it is a combo approach with us using human in the loop as well as AI.
What trends are you seeing across industries?
So I think financial industry could be anything related to stocks and bonds, and how are they presenting that type of information? So just think about those related to your specific industry and what you would be concerned about when you think about hiring, the hiring process. What do you think about in your interview process? And extend that out to how you would put together your social media policy and what you would be concerned about for your industry.
How do you avoid bias or exposure to protected class information during the screening process?
I think the biggest advantage to avoiding bias is using a third-party vendor so that you can get a consistent approach across all social media background checks. And as anybody knows, we're human. Once you see something, it's hard to not see it. So that is the advantage of using AI in that approach and having a consistent approach so that we're delivering a report that isn't having my own personal bias and that we are consistent over time on that.
So what types of social media activity actually rise to the level of hiring risk versus just personal opinion?
I'm going to again lean on that from an organizational standpoint. So again, what is your organization looking at and consider what are they consider to be something that would be maybe a red flag or not a red flag. So again, the data is being provided. I can give you examples in terms of what one organization would consider to be risky versus what others would. But again, what is the background of your organization?
At what stage in the hiring process should social media screening be conducted?
And which should be at the same time we're doing the rest of that. You're getting the consent to do the verification of employment, education, the criminal background check as well. So it should all be within that phase.
Can social media screening reduce negligent hiring claims?
I'm going to say yes. It's again, what is your organization? What are you guys trying to look for? I think social media screening is a great tool to be able to reduce hiring the wrong person because you're looking at alternative character traits that you wouldn't find on a normal background check.
How do state and international laws impact social media checks?
Yep, there's 26 states in the United States that have specific rules around social media screening. Again, we're always told by our legal team to consult your own legal team to figure out what your organization is willing to do. From an international standpoint, there are different countries that have different regulatory rules. We follow all of those compliance issues. But again, we are looking at public posts. We are never, ever asking a candidate for their password or access to their account. So we are looking at public posts that if I was to log into any of those platforms, I could go see myself.
What should employers do if they do find something questionable but not illegal?
So I think that comes back to the policy and your internal policy and how you want to handle those things. In my opinion, you should have sort of an escalation process internally as well. If the reviewer feels like something is concerning, there should be an escalation policy escalation process in your policy so that the right decisions are being made. Again, this is very similar to what do you do with a criminal report that comes back as well. So that should just be part of your process, your internal process and your approval process to make an adverse action.
What platforms should be included in a typical screen?
In all of our reports, we cover the 7 major platforms. So Facebook, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, TikTok, Reddit, and Pinterest. Now, that's not to say there's always, your applicant may not have an account in every single one of those platforms, but we do look at across all 7 of those platforms, and we are able to add 2 handles per platform. So if your user has 2 Facebook accounts, 2 Instagrams accounts, we can add both of those as well. So we look at the 7 major platforms on all reports.
If a candidate deletes posts, can those be seen? What about likes and comments?
Deleted posts are not looked at. Obviously, we're looking at whenever the day is that we run that report, the current public post within that time frame that we set. Deleted posts and private accounts. Deleted posts, we do not look at those posts. Private accounts, we obviously don't look at those as well. There was a secondary part of that question.
Likes.
Oh, we look at original post, we look at the likes, we look at the replies, and we look at the repost as well.
Does social media screening look for posts only? Is considerations given to videos, reels, watched, liked, or shared?
So we look at original posts, we look at likes, we look at replies, we look at reposts. when it comes to videos. Currently, right now, we look at the thumbnail of the video, as well as the text overlay of the video, as well as the image of that thumbnail. And then, like I said, video analysis is coming.
I know we covered a lot today, so if you have any questions or want to learn more about our social media screening solution, you can scan the QR code on your screen right now to get a free, no strings attached background check program assessment. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.